All right, let's talk about something we all feel. Housing is just impossibly expensive, right? But what if the reasons we think it's so expensive are, well, completely wrong? Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and honestly, pretty radical rethink of the whole housing crisis.
I mean, it's the question on everyone's mind, isn't it? Whether you're just starting out or you're deep into your career. Why does buying a house feel like this far-off, impossible dream? Well, stick with me because the answer we're going to dig into today, it's probably not what you're expecting.
Okay, so our first big idea here is something that completely flips a modern assumption on its head. It's called the double income trap. See, what began as this great new option for a better life has kind of morphed into something else.
And this really lays it out perfectly. The promise, right? 2 incomes meant more freedom, a better quality of life. But the reality? Well, as 2-income households became the standard, the market just adjusted. House prices shot up to match what 2 people could earn, and suddenly what was a choice became an absolute necessity. So you gotta ask, if the families themselves only got a small boost, where did all that extra cash go? Well, this chart tells the story. A big chunk went to the government in higher taxes. Another huge chunk went to people who already owned homes, as their property values went through the roof. And the 2-income family? They were basically just running harder and harder just to stay in the same spot.
And get this. This is the cost that isn't about money, and it is just staggering. A loss of 35 hours of free time per week. That's an entire second job's worth of time that could have been spent with kids, on hobbies, or, just not working. It's a huge, huge blow to our quality of life. And that's the real kicker, right? This trap has totally warped the market. It wasn't that long ago that a family could get by on a single income. Now, even someone we consider highly paid, like a hospital consultant, can't even afford a home by themselves. The system is just fundamentally broken for single people, or for any parent who wants to take a few years off to raise their kids.
So this all leads to a much bigger, kind of confusing question. We're living in this age of absolute technological magic, so why don't our lives feel magically better? Why hasn't our standard of living skyrocketed along with the tech?
I mean, seriously, think about it. The phone in your pocket, it's way more powerful than what a millionaire had just a couple of decades back. The 4K TV on your wall is incredible. You can pull up basically any movie or song from anywhere in the world in seconds. It's amazing. This level of access is just extraordinary.
So where did all the benefits from that incredible progress go? Well, here's the punchline. All those lifestyle gains we should have gotten from technology, they were just sucked up, completely mopped up, into one giant rivalrous chase for property. And that brings us to the absolute core of this whole argument. If we're going to get to the bottom of this, we have to separate 2 things we always think of as one: the house and the land it's built on. So let's ask the question a different way. Is the problem really the price of the bricks and the wood and the labor to build the house? Or is the real problem the piece of ground that the house is permanently stuck to? History actually has this really cool solution for this. It's called a chattel house. It's a concept from the Caribbean where people built homes they could actually move. And this one simple idea, it completely flipped the script on the power dynamic between landowners and the people living on the land. And this is how it worked. It's genius, really. Landowner jacks up the rent? No problem. You and a friend literally pick up your house and you move it to a different plot of land where the rent is cheaper. Boom. It completely separated owning your home from owning the land it sat on. Okay, so how on earth could we use an idea like that today? Well, let's get into some really radical, but super interesting modern ideas that do that exact same thing. Break the link between the house and the land. Now, some of these might sound a little out there at first, but just hear me out. Think about designer mobile homes that are actually beautiful, or leasing land for just a few years at a time. Heck, even the idea of living in a pub car park or a really slick, modern trailer park suddenly becomes a totally viable and affordable option when you think this way. But wait, you're probably thinking, no way my neighborhood would go for that. And that's where this analogy is so powerful. Nobody, and I mean nobody, wants a permanent nuclear power plant built next to them, right? But what about a nuclear plant on a giant ship that's just docked for a few months and then sails away? Suddenly, people aren't nearly as worried. The fact that it's temporary changes everything. And that same psychology could work for housing. All right, let's zoom out for a second, because this gets way bigger. If we can actually fix this housing mess, we're not just solving where people live. We might actually be fixing a fundamental,
deep-seated problem with modern capitalism itself.
Here's the thing. Right now, our system showers insane amounts of wealth on people just for owning something, in the right place, at the right time. It has almost nothing to do with how hard they work, what they create, or what they contribute to society. And when that happens, when the link between effort and reward is broken, it makes the whole idea of capitalism seem like a sham. So, I want to leave you with this final, really provocative question. Imagine if all the gains from all our amazing technology and productivity hadn't been poured into this black hole of rising house prices. What could our lives look like then? If housing were actually affordable, could we have a 4-day work week? Could we all be working a little less and living a whole lot more? It's a pretty powerful thing to think about.